Hey, and welcome back to another episode. I'm just going to put it out there. We're going to talk about trust in this segment, and not from like your traditional, this is why, you should trust your people, or this is why you should trust the organization. This goes back to personal relationship trust amongst people in organizations. So every organization talks about it. Every leader says it matters, but very few people understand how fragile trust becomes as your responsibility increases, as your leadership position increases as well. Because trust changes depending on where you sit in the organization. It's kind of like a sliding scale. At the lower levels, there's often more room for mistakes that get overlooked, more room to recover, more room to rebuild credibility. But at the higher levels of leadership, that's where that margin becomes smaller and smaller. One bad emotional reaction to something, one moment where people question your integrity or judgment, and suddenly your trust that you spent building your entire career starts shrinking and dwindling and contracting. Today, we're talking about the fragility of trust inside organizations. And trust carries a different weight based on the different levels of leadership. And this is what I call the Goldilocks leadership. Leadership that's not too hard, it's not too soft, but calibrated just right for the mission, the moment, and the people. So oftentimes people don't talk about the wiggle room of trust, right? Is there some wiggle room when it comes to trust? Well, I go back to the statement that says, who can be trusted with little can be trusted with a lot. And that goes down to everything. And oftentimes, what I've observed over my vast years in leadership positions is that trust has different levels of elasticity depending on the leadership position you're in. A junior employee will make a mistake and recover quickly. And they have the trust of those who are managing them and leading them that, hey, they'll overlook this mistake as long as I don't make it again, and that they're going to trust me to do the right thing. Right? And a first line supervisor still might stumble again and regain some confidence and try to rebuild their credibility over time. But a senior leader, those in senior director positions or even executive positions, they operate with far less wiggle room, almost no wiggle room at all. And a lot of people don't talk about it. It's just like this understood expectation. And oftentimes people find themselves alienated, isolated, and on an island, and they don't even realize it because they did something that eroded trust, because their decisions carry broader consequences at the more senior levels. At the more senior levels, you're not just representing yourself. You're not an individual contributor anymore. You begin representing the organization. You begin representing organizational culture, standards, stability, and people get confidence in the mission that you have because of who you are as a person. And when people start asking the question, do I trust this person? And worse yet, let's say you have an executive that's working with somebody else on their team and they start questioning, do I trust this person that I'm directly working with? Because by extension, they are a representation of me. And now I have issues with trusting them. And maybe they did something small, right? Because someone who could be trusted with small things could be trusted with a lot of things. And if you did something that violated that trust, it made someone look at you side-eyed and go, I don't know if I trust this person. Then the rest of your organization could start going, do I trust the organization I work with? Do I trust the organization I work for? Do I trust everybody in between, the director or the executive on down below? It starts to erode trust. And so that wiggle room is very little at the top. I have seen cases where people will have told one small white lie to get over something, thinking that, hey, I told the little white lie and I got out of it unscathed and I'm going to go fix the problem. The problem it wasn't that you made a mistake. The problem wasn't the problem. The problem was that you told a little white lie that you think that didn't matter. This goes back to, let's say you go out to eat with someone who's at a senior leader level, and not that this would really ever happen, but you might end up in a Burger King somewhere, right? And you might go order some food and you might think to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to order a water and then I'm going to go over to the soda machine and I'm going to get like soda instead of water, right? And you might think, well, who cares, right? It's like 25 cents for the soda. I already paid for the cup. I kind of already paid for everything. I paid for a majority of my meal. But that executive or that senior leader sees that behavior and they go, Well, so if you're willing to steal from somebody else, you're definitely going to steal from me. And in the moment, you might think, well, that's not that big of a deal. I just got some soda instead of water. But you put your integrity on the line. And oftentimes, when you get up into the executive level and the director level and the more senior spheres of organizations, people watch every little thing you do. And when you do something that gives away your integrity, people notice it and they go, I can't trust this person. Then you're going to start asking yourself over a period of time, why do I find myself not being invited to some meetings when other people are? Why do I find myself not being afforded opportunities in the company when other people are? What happened for me to constantly have to re-justify and reprove everything that I am doing? Maybe it's something that you did that gave away your integrity. Maybe it's something that you did that gave away your trust. And even though you may think that, well, people don't really notice those small things, people notice everything. And especially if you're in a senior leadership position, people are more critical of you and you're held to the standard. You're not held to a different standard. So we talked earlier that if, a junior employee can make more mistakes, right? They're still held to that standard. But the mistake that they made only affected themselves or maybe one or two other people. But as you climb the leadership ladder, the mistakes you make affect hundreds or thousands of people. And that's with inside your organization. And if you take that a step further and you look outside your organization, well, how does that affect my clients? How does that affect the people that are paying me for services? Well, now they're going to start losing trust in me potentially because of the actions and the small actions of a few. So you're looking for different standards when it's really not a different standard. You're actually held to the same standard that everybody was supposed to be held to. The problem is that now that you've risen up to a different level, you're held to the standard with no wiggle room. There's no like, oh, I didn't know. There's no, no one told me, or I just made a simple mistake. There's no tolerance for that. And oftentimes people will recognize like, hey, you know what? I know you're a human being. I know you make mistakes. I feel for you. And they may genuinely feel for you as a human being and a person. However, professionally, they can't trust you anymore. They can't keep you in that position or that job anymore. And they're probably going to move you on. And it will probably look like a decrease in responsibilities, decrease in participation until eventually you get the hint of, I need to do something else. This isn't the place for me. And you're going to feel isolated. Or eventually they might just tell you, maybe you need to retire. You spent like 15 to 20 years in this company. I really appreciate all the hard work you've done, but maybe it's time for you to go somewhere else. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But sometimes it is you. I know the last episode, Nancy said 9 times out of 10, it's not you, but sometimes it is. And that's where we're talking about trust. Because if you lose trust in those that are senior with you amongst your peer group and amongst others that are above you on like different boards and stuff like that, you're going to find it affecting your career. And so here's the real crux of it. There's this leadership amplifier effect. The higher leaders rise, the louder their behavior becomes. And I call this the leader amplifier effect. Everything gets magnified, your communication. This is like the biggest thing. Your communication tone, emotional control, consistency, and even silence gets way amplified. And it kind of is comical to a certain extent. And if you're in positions like this at the executive level, you understand what I'm talking about. So let's say you're talking to somebody, you're having a conversation, and you don't like the way of the answers that you're getting, and you just don't like the outcome of the meeting that you're participating in. It's not what you expected. And so you don't yell at anybody. You just tell the whole team, hey, look, this isn't the direction I thought we were going. I'm not satisfied with the results that I'm seeing here. Go back to the drawing board, redo it, come back to me, and then we'll move on. That sounds like you have emotional intelligence, you're reading the room, you're clearly articulating your standards, and your tone isn't out of whack, and you are completely communicating clearly what you want to have done. People leave the meeting. They will then go down the hall and go back into their offices and say, hey, did you hear the boss? He is really, really pissed at us. He is really, really angry at us because we screwed this up royally, and we got to fix this now. And they go back to their team and they go in like crisis mode. They're like, well, how do I fix this? And how do I do this? Because it is amplified on what you said. And the inverse of this is also true, because I've been at the other end, at the entry end, where you go in to a meeting and somebody will say, you literally get cussed up and down from head to toe, told how horrible of a human being you are. And you go, okay, all right, got it. I'll fix it. And you fix what you got to fix and you move on. You're like, yeah, I know he's mad, but he'll get over it. But the difference in tone gets taken out of proportion the more senior you are. And that's just more to it. I don't know how many times I've been walking somewhere interacting with folks and I hear, hey, I talked to the boss. He's really mad at you for X, Y, and Z. And I go, really? That's interesting. I didn't know he was mad at me. Let me go talk to him, right? So I go talk to him, say, boss, you mad? He's like, no, I'm not mad at you at all. I was just X, Y, and Z or whatever, right? So things get taken out of context all the time because it's the amplifying effect of being a senior leader. And at senior levels, silence can feel like indifference, and inconsistency can feel like favoritism, and a lack of transparency can create uncertainty in our lives. And it's important to note that if somebody's silent on something, usually it's a decision or an indecision, or they don't want to come out of character. Oftentimes, maybe they're going through a bad day. Maybe somebody's having a bad time because somebody is not commenting on something. Somebody's not putting an effort or making a decision on something. Does not mean that they're mad about it. It does not mean that they don't care about it. It just means that they're taking the time to not make a decision. And the hardest learning point that I had to learn is that no decision is still a decision. It's just not telling you no. So if you ask somebody, hey, this is the project I'm working on, this is the route I'm going, these are the things I want to do, what do you think? I think we should do it. Okay, Tim, I appreciate your effort on this. Let me get back to you. Okay, cool. So you walk away, a couple weeks go by, a couple months go by, you re-engage. Hey, do you remember we talked about this thing and, we said we were going to go through this project, but then you said you wanted to think about it. I haven't heard back. What do you think? Hey, Tim, I really appreciate all the effort. Thank you for the follow-up on this. I'm still thinking about it. Thank you for bringing it up to my attention. And then you just sit there and you go, okay. You walk away. And then it starts to register. He's just nicely telling me no. Like, this isn't the right time. This isn't the right place. He's just telling me no. I'll table it. I'll keep it ready. So when he's ready to action it or she's ready to action it, I'm good to go. It's just not the right time. They're just nicely telling me no. And sometimes that felt like, well, you just don't care about it. It's not a priority to you. And sometimes it's not. What's a priority to me at a different level is not a priority for somebody else at another level, because there's competing priorities and they all need to balance each other out. And so what we need to understand is that as we are in these positions, the things that we do and the things that we say get amplified. And oftentimes they're taken out of context. Sometimes they're not. But we need to educate people around us to let them know, like, hey, this is my leadership style and this is how I work. And if you work with senior leaders, you have to expect this, that these are the things that you're going to come in contact with, and no one's going to tell you how these things work or how these things come about. It just is. But I'm here to tell you today, so when you do get to those positions, you're not caught off guard. Here's an important part. Leaders watch what other leaders tolerate, and that ultimately shapes culture. Not slogans, not mission statements, not posters on the wall. Culture is shaped by tolerated behavior. And I want to emphasize this so much because that goes back to trust and how other leaders trust you at different levels, and then how your organization will trust you as well. So think about that. Every time you see a standard not being enforced and you physically see it with your own eyes, and other people are seeing you see it with your own eyes, and you walk past it and you do nothing to fix it, you set a new standard that this is okay in this culture and this obligation. That's what you simply said. Something as simple as picking up trash in the parking lot. You get out of your car. Let's say you're a senior in the company. Guess what? You can bend over and pick up trash too. Like, I'm not saying pick up cigarette butts unless you've got gloves, right? Because that's kind of nasty. But you could pick up simple trash and simple paper, and you could walk it to the trash can. If you see that your trash can in your office is too full, you could take your own trash out and put it in the trash. You can literally walk your trash down the hall to the big trash receptacle for the building or whatever and put it in there. And other people will notice he takes out his own trash every single day. I can take out my trash too. I can keep this place clean because cleanliness is part of this culture because I see the boss doing it. And if the boss is doing it, it's something that I should be doing and emulating myself too. Okay, cool. Conversely, you see the boss walk by a standard, not corrected, and people know it. That must be how we operate here. That's okay. And I go back to High Point University on this one, because when I went there and we toured the campus with our oldest son, and the campus was immaculate and clean, and the president of the college made a very good point to say, it's not because we have the best cleaning staff in the world. It's because we have a culture here where every student knows that it's my responsibility to take care of my place and keep it clean and tidy and throw away my own trash. And they actually police each other up if they don't do that. Like if you go into the dining facility and you put your tray down, they call it a cafeteria. I call it a dining facility, habits. But anyway, and you put your tray down, you don't just get up and leave your tray there. No one's going to magically walk it up and put it in the trash. Another student will tell another student, hey, you need to take that to the trash man. You can't just leave it there. Or another student will get up and throw it in the trash for somebody else. So it's just the culture that you create. You create the culture by letting people know these are the standards, and we're not going to walk by a standard, and we're not going to tolerate something else be less. Same goes true on a staff. If you're on an executive level staff and you see people behaving in a way that's not congruent with the standards of the culture of that company or organization, and you let that slide, you are setting a new standard because something's not behaving a certain way. You can talk to them directly. They can go to do other means if they don't want to change. The best method is talking to somebody directly, be like, hey, this is not okay. It's not okay behavior. What can I do to help you? Are you having a bad time? Like, what's going on? You can do all those things. But what we can't do is tolerate substandards, because that erodes trust. I know you're thinking, you said we're talking about trust, you're talking about standards. They all go in the same. And I go back to the same slogan. Who can be trusted with little can be trusted a lot. If I know that I can trust you to do the small things right, I know I can trust you to do the big things right. Not the other way around. I can only trust you to do the big things right and not the small things right. It doesn't work that way. If you can show me a scenario where that works, I might listen. But as of right now, it doesn't work. And here's why trust becomes even more fragile at the top. And it's kind of like the paradox of leadership. The higher you rise, the more trust people place in you. And simultaneously, the less room you have to lose it. So if you're rising up to higher levels and you're affecting thousands of people's lives, you're affecting thousands of customers' lives, if not millions, people put a lot of trust and confidence and faith in you that you're going to do the right thing, that you're going to look out for the people in the organization, the people outside the organization. It's a lot of pressure. But also, you make one little mistake, take it all away. Because with the largest amount of trust, you have the least amount of wiggle room. It's kind of like an inverted pyramid on like a seesaw. You see like the scales of balance going on. Well, it's less balanced the more senior you get. It's like they put a little bit of like untrust on there and it tips the scales and you're gone. And it's because your influence expands as well. And the expansion of your consequences are overreaching. A poor decision at lower levels might affect a team, a couple of people. Poor decision at higher senior levels affects your morale, your retention rates, your innovation, your readiness, and long-term organizational confidence. And that's why emotional discipline is super important when it comes to leadership. And senior leaders are constantly communicating even when they aren't speaking. Super important to learn how to write effectively. Super important to learn how to talk effectively, manage your own body language, and manage how we talk to other people. And then we also think about, too, how are other people going to watch my interaction with this person? And how are they going to perceive it? Because it's going to affect their level of trust and confidence in me. And if you haven't thought about that, I want you to think about that, because you might find yourself losing credibility, integrity, and trust based on how you interact with other people, not being aware of how you interact with other people. And this kind of brings me to the Goldilocks of leadership topic that we talked about earlier. Not too hard, not too soft, just right. And honestly, this is where many organizations struggle. This is where I struggle as well. We often assume leadership is universal. If someone succeeds in this environment, they're going to automatically succeed in another environment. But it's also contextual. We play different roles, and different levels of responsibility require different temperaments, communication styles, decision-making approaches, and even emotional intelligence to a different degree. So if somebody thrives in a crisis environment, it doesn't mean that they're going to thrive at developing and mentoring other people. It doesn't mean that they're really good at, just because somebody is really good at tactics and techniques, doesn't mean they're going to be a great strategist, or vice versa. If I'm a great strategist, doesn't mean I'm going to be a good detail-oriented person. Somebody who may be inspiring and visionary to somebody else struggles operationally to execute and to make things happen. So when we think about this, we got to think about it in the context of not, is this person talented, but is this the right person for the right role in the right season with these people? And you go, okay, well, this person might not be great in this position, or this person may not be great in this position, or this person could be great in this position, but we got some trust issues. Can I trust this person to do these things if somebody's not around? And that's what really kind of brought me to this point, because we got to find the right fit. And oftentimes, when we're looking for jobs and we're looking for positions, we take it personally because it is personal to a point. It's livelihood, it's your money, it's your income, it's your reputation that ultimately goes on the line. And you put yourself out there and you go, okay, well, I'm going to be a leader and I would excel at this job. That organization knows themselves, and they might go, you know what? You're incredibly talented. You're incredibly smart. We know all those things about you, but you're not the right fit for this job because you're not going to mesh with everybody else. You're not going to be the right person that would be the right need for this time in this season to bring what you can bring to the table. Somebody else's organization needs you more than we do. We would love to have you for the talent, but it'd be too disruptive for the team. You won't fit. And so it's kind of like that Goldilocks mentality, or you might be too hard for it, or you might be too soft for it, but we got to find the right middle ground. And in that right middle ground is where you're really going to shine. And that goes back to alignment. I've been talking about alignment this year of, are you in your calling? Are you in your right alignment? And sometimes you'll be in your right calling, your right alignment, and the doors will shut, not because of anything you did, but because the organization changed around you. Or maybe you outgrew the organization. It's time for you to go somewhere else. All of those things are real factors, and it feels incredibly personal, but you kind of not need to take it personal and go, you know what? I'm probably just not the right fit. And I would be miserable if I ended up in this position, or you would be miserable if you ended up in this position. And we're looking out for each other. Not that you're not talented, not that you're not smart, because you are. Problem is you're just not the right fit for the right time. We'll come back to it in a couple of years. And some people don't want to hear that. Let's talk about how problems may stay a little bit longer, because things are getting filtered out at different levels. And while that needs to happen to a certain extent, there are certain and clear instances where it does not need to happen. And it goes back to the tolerant of standards pieces. Oftentimes, things will get covered up because other leaders think, well, I'm taking care of this person. I'm taking care of this person. They made a mistake. I'm going to take care of it. Sweeping things under the rug is not taking care of somebody. It's not taking care of somebody. It's not taking care of the organization. And this is a really hard truth to keep in context, because oftentimes we want to take care of somebody. And that means, well, we're just kind of sweeping on the rug and we'll just overlook this indiscretion because you're a really hard worker. You're really good at what you do. You deliver results. Even though you did this bad thing, you deliver results, so that's okay. Unfortunately, that undermines the standards and the trust of the organization. And then people start to question, is this an organization I want to work with? Is this something that I need to do? Maybe not. I might want to go look somewhere else. And that could hurt your talent pool. It hurts your retention. And it's okay. We're all human. We all make mistakes and no one's perfect. And it's okay to know that. But it's also okay to know that we're not going to tolerate certain things or certain standards. And fear may cause some movement, but trust creates commitment. I would much rather have commitment than movement any day of the week. And on the opposite side, leaders that are too soft and avoid accountability altogether, well, they over-accommodate. They delay the hard conversations, and they lower the standards unintentionally. So strong leaders require both. They need empathy and accountability. And that balance is difficult, but it matters the most. And the truth is that trust requires both character and competence. One leadership lesson that keeps coming back over and over again is people don't only need to trust your intentions, they need to trust your capability. And trust resides in two pillars, your character and your competence. You can have a high competency and low integrity, and that becomes dangerous. And you can have strong integrity and poor competency, and that creates instability. And sustainable leadership means that you have both. And trust is that, and that's why trust is so fragile at senior levels, because eventually leaders are tested in both areas, who they are and what they can carry the responsibility of that they're given. And then you're exposed. I call this rise to the occasion and sink or swim. You've been proven that you could be trusted with a certain amount of level of responsibility. You're going to either rise to the occasion and you're going to do well, or you're going to sink. Either way, people notice the difference. And that's why it's so fragile. So what does this all mean? We talked about it. I gave you some real world examples, but so what? Who really cares? For emerging leaders, consistency matters more than charisma. Habits become your reputation, and trust compounds slowly over time. You might not know it, but it's kind of like the quiet professional. Keep your head down, do the right thing, be consistent, and you're going to go far. And for senior leaders, emotional discipline shapes organizational climate. Transparency matters, and ego quietly erodes trust faster than people realize. And it's hard. Because sometimes, when you're told that you're the man or you're the gal and you're running the things and, everyone's a yes person and you got the car, you got the parking spot, you got the trips, you got the card, you're going all over the place. People want your attention 24/7 and you become the guy. You can get an inflated ego. But at the end of the day, you got to remind yourself, I am one breath away of not existing anymore. And what does it matter? I am one task or one project or one thing away from losing it all, and then I'm going to be replaced tomorrow. I put on my pants two feet at a time, just like everybody else. We got to find ways to humble ourselves to make sure that we are not overinflating our egos and hurting other people in the process. And for organizations, stop assuming technical excellence automatically creates leadership readiness. Just because you're a high performer or individual contributor doesn't mean you're ready to lead. And leadership fit matters. Are you the Goldilocks? We're searching for the right fit here. Alignment matters. And the wrong leader at the wrong place can quietly damage your culture for years unless you find it, unless you seek it out and find out on how we can eliminate the wrong fit in the wrong area. And then how do we make it a human connection for somebody else to really say the impact of, hey, maybe we made a mistake and it's not your fault. Maybe you weren't the right fit and it's our fault that we did that to you. I'm sorry. Let's find the right fit for you. So the best leaders are rarely the loudest people in the room. They understand timing, balancing, humility, and accountability. They know when to push, when to listen, and when to hold the line, when to not stray, and when to adapt. And maybe that's what great leadership really is. Not being too hard, not being too soft, but being exactly where the mission and the people require of you in that moment. So I just want to end with that in mind. I appreciate all of you stopping by and listening to this episode, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, do me a favor. If you could like or comment however you want, that's fine. And then leave a review and share it with one or two people that you think might get some benefit from this episode. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for everything that you do out there. And if you disagree with something, let me know too. I want to hear your thoughts. Until next time, I'm Tim Staton, stating the obvious.